Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be going over Katarzyna Zowada. I'm so sorry if I said that name wrong. This is a Polish young lady, so if I did say that name wrong and you are Polish, I am very, very sorry for getting that wrong. Yeah, I have to give a warning that this video will be super, super dark because it involves um, flaying, and I wouldn't say decapitation, but limbs being cut, basically. So, if you are not a fan of stuff like that, please go ahead and skip this video because this is not for the faint of heart. But like we always say on this very channel, don't subscribe just yet. I will earn your subscription by the end of this video. And don't leave a like just yet. Watch the video all the way through. And then, if you actually made it to the end of the video and you actually liked the video, make sure to leave a like. It really helps me out on growing the channel out. And as I am recording this video, we hit 70 subscribers before August. Thank you guys so much. That was a goal that I made in a previous video, and I wasn't expecting to hit it in 15 days. It took us 15 days to hit that goal. Thank you guys so much for helping me hit that goal. And my next goal, if you haven't seen my post on YouTube, our next goal is to hit 100 subscribers before August. Anyway, with that being said, sorry for my rambling, let's get right into Katar's story, of which I'm going to be calling her by that because, sorry, her name's really difficult for me. The backstory. Katar was born on June 1st, 1975 to Polish parents in Poland. All her life she grew up in Poland, near the Polish city called Krakow. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I got that wrong. Katar's father passed away when she was in her early 20s in 1996. Fast forward 2 years later, 1998, Katar would attend a university called, not even gonna try and pronounce that, and would later become a student there. She would go on to take a history class and would pass that class. Afterwards would take up a class in religion. Her friends and family would describe her before her father's passing as kind and gentle and sweet young lady. But when her father would pass away, they would describe her as withdrawn, grieved, and depressed. They would describe her as this because her father had passed and it was obvious that she was not taking it well. She was struggling with his passing, and eventually Katar would become alone and sad. Seeing her like this, her mother would set up an appointment with a psychotherapist, basically like therapy. Psychotherapy helps people that are unhappy and have problems that want to improve and have a better life. Her mother would set up the appointment for Katar just before she had gone missing. When her mother didn't see her, she would try to report her missing, but the police, they brushed it off and waited for Katar to return home. And Katar would go missing on November 12th, 1998. Imagine that you are Katar's mother. You see her depressed and grieving with the passing of her husband, her father, and you wish to help her. You go out of your way to set up an appointment and everything, only to find out that Katarzyna has gone missing without a trace. You wouldn't figure out what happened to your daughter for another 19 years, until a cold case unit would break your daughter's case wide open. And what you would hear that became of your daughter's fate would dishearten, shock, and have you believing that the cold case unit is lying or got something wrong in their search. But it would be the cold and harsh truth of Katarzyna Zowada's missing 411 case. So, what exactly happened to Katarzyna Zowada the day she went missing? Here's what the cold case unit would uncover to be the truth. Robert, not gonna say his last name because that kinda looks difficult, a 52-year-old man would kidnap Qatar and would go on to commit an unspeakable crime that almost never occurs. In January 1999, a crew of the Elk Pusher tugboat would be interrupted when something had got caught in the boat's propeller, and this something would be emitting a horrific stench, and they would then make a grim discovery. When operator Miroslav M. opened the hatch, he would go on to say that he saw a pale tangled mass. With the crew's help, they would remove the obstruction and would uncover what appeared to be human skin and had an ear still attached to it. That is so gross. With the help of forensic analysis, they would confirm it to be human skin, but not just any human skin. And you could probably guess where this is already going. Katarzyna Zowada's skin. They initially suspected that the boat's propeller had done this, but when they furthered their examination, they would uncover even more horrific details about what exactly had happened to Katarzyna Zowada. Qatar would be locked up in Robert's house in the city of Krakow and seemingly tortured for maybe a few weeks before she had been murdered. Robert had cut and removed all the skin on her torso while she had still been alive and conscious. He let Qatar be exposed without the skin on her torso, leading her to get infected from the flame itself and would ultimately die from the torture. After she had died, Robert would go on to cut up all her body parts, dumping the skin of her torso and her right leg into the Vistula River. The rest of her body parts have never been discovered to this day. Qatar's skin had been expertly flayed from her ear to her groin, and her skin would show additional cuts from her shoulder blade to beneath her chest. And with this, they knew that whoever had committed this horrific, unspeakable crime had intended to use her skin as a suit. Not only this would happen though. On January 14th, they would find more of Qatar's remains upstream that would include her right leg, a portion of her buttocks, and some clothing. But after this, they would no longer find anything else that would be related to her or her case. Experts at Wrocław Medical University in 2012 would discover even more of the horrific truth, as if this couldn't get any worse than it already has. It just keeps going downhill from there. They would create a 3D reconstruction of the injuries that remained to the skin, and this would lead them to find that Qatar was tortured with sharp objects and would show that she would have received deep wounds to her neck, armpits, and her groin. These injuries pointed to the fact that Qatar had been in excruciating pain and would have bled to death. Now, I think that's like one of the worst deaths you could have. In May of 1999, they would suspect Vladimir W. as Qatar's killer. And this is because Vlad's past would include decapitating and scalping his very own father, and would even be seen wearing his father's facial skin and posing it as a mask. Oh my god. After discovering that there was DNA on Qatar's remains, but it would not point towards Vlad. Robert would also be a person of interest during 1999, but he wouldn't be arrested or in custody at this time. 19 years later, after the murder, Cold Case Unit Archive X would re-examine the evidence and would discover a rare plant on Katar's remains. This rare plant would help them to narrow down the location of the crime, which I think is badass. They would then begin to suspect and also would arrest the 52-year-old Robert, last name I'm not gonna say, saying that the evidence led to him as the killer. Investigators would also search his apartment and would find blood in his bathroom. After they made this discovery, the bath and frame would go into further investigation. And Robert ultimately fit the psychological profile of the killer as he was trained in martial arts. But not only this, he even had a history of harassing women and had a very unsettling fascination with dissecting animals. He had honed this skill when he had been working at Krakow Institution of Zoology. The reason he had been fired from this job was because he had killed all the rabbits that were in his care abruptly. And he couldn't even explain his actions. I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching this video. I know you love rabbits. I'm so sorry. Before he got the job at the institution, he previously had worked and dealt with human corpses. Adding on to this disturbing fact, Robert would even go out of his way to visit Katar's grave repeatedly. And of course, this would spark and raise suspicion. He would know the victim before the murder. Why would you go to the grave? That's so weird. And not only this though, the reason they would also arrest him at the time was because of an undisclosed letter from a friend of Robert's. Robert would be charged with aggravated murder with particularly cruelty. Robert would also say that he had not known Katar. The Court of Appeal agreed to have his detention extended until September 6, 2018. While investigators would gather evidence that pointed to him as Katar's killer. In December, Robert would complain about harassment from the prison guards, but these claims were found to be groundless. Now, this is where it could go two different ways, so I'm just going to read both for you, so you could tell me if both is, if one is right or neither are right. I don't really know, but I'm just going to read both, and you can decide or look it up. I don't really know, but here you go. On the Wikipedia about the murder of Katarzyna Zowada, it would speak about Robert's trial as this. As of September 2019, investigators had requested to have the trial closed, and on October 31st, 2024, the Court of Appeal found that Robert could no longer be held without trial, and he would be released from custody. Oh, and here's the other one. And on the website Criminal about the murder of Katarzyna Zowada, it would also speak about Robert's trial as this. In February 2020, Robert would go to trial with about 800 pieces of evidence presented in court. Investigators would accuse him of torturing Katar and inflicting stab wounds, fractures, and lacerations with brutal precision. Some believed Robert had been inspired by Buffalo Bill, the fictional serial killer from The Silence of the Lambs, who skinned his victims to craft a suit, which does make sense. In 2022, Robert would be found guilty of aggravated murder with particularly cruelty and would be sentenced to life in prison. However, he and his family have maintained his innocence, arguing the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence. And that's gonna do it. As for my thoughts on this, I can't really tell you, like, if he's in jail or if he's not. I really hope he is, to be honest. But about 800 pieces of evidence pointing to him as the killer. I've never heard of more evidence being gathered for a person than this. About 800 pieces. That is crazy. Anyway, my condolences goes out to Katar's family. I'm really sorry that I couldn't say any of these names right, or I couldn't say them at all. I really tried my best. But yeah, I'm really sorry that I couldn't say it right. And I'm sorry that this video was so dark. But yeah, I figured that this should be talked about because it's actually really important. I believe that it is because it goes with my channel, but we can also get it out there that this actually happens. You may look at stuff on TV and be like, oh, that happened to them, that may not happen to me. It could. It really could happen to you. But, moving on from that. With that being said, if I earned your subscription, make sure to subscribe. And if you watch the video all the way through and you actually like the video, make sure to leave a like. It helps me out to let me know that you want to see more just like this. And with that, I've been your host, Vix. I hope you like the new mic. And yeah, I will catch you guys in my next video.